Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of English with Tuna. I'm so glad you're here because today we're diving into a very real and very important topic: how I deal with stress. We all face stress, right? Whether it's from work, family, relationships, money, or just the pressure to do well in life. It builds up, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. And if we don't know how to manage it, it can take over our lives. So, in this episode, I'm going to talk about my personal experiences with stress, what it feels like, how I react to it, and the practical things I do to cope. I'll also share some helpful vocabulary and expressions that describe emotional states and interactions. So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed, exhausted, or just mentally stuck, you're not alone. And I hope this story helps you find your own way of dealing with stress. 1. Recognizing the signs of stress. Let's start from the beginning. For a long time, I didn't even realize I was stressed. I thought I was just tired or maybe a little irritated. But then I started noticing patterns. I would feel a heavy weight on my chest when I woke up. I would snap at people for no real reason. I couldn't sleep well, and I lost motivation to do even the things I loved. I felt anxious, tense, and constantly on edge. My mind would race with thoughts like, what if I fail? Why am I not doing enough? Why do I feel stuck? It was a nonstop loop. I couldn't focus, I couldn't relax, I couldn't enjoy anything. And that's when I knew this wasn't just normal fatigue. I was under real emotional stress. 2. Understanding my triggers. One thing that really helped me was learning to identify my triggers, the situations or thoughts that cause my stress. For example, I noticed I got extremely tense before deadlines. Even if the task was small, just seeing the deadline on the calendar made my chest tighten. Another big trigger was comparing myself to others. Social media made this worse. I would scroll through pictures of people living their best life and start feeling like I wasn't good enough or fast enough or successful enough. When I became more aware of these triggers, I could stop blaming myself and start understanding what was really happening. I wasn't weak, I wasn't lazy, I was simply reacting to pressure, uncertainty, and fear. 3. The moment I hit a breaking point. There was one week in particular that I'll never forget. I had so many things to do: work presentations, family problems, financial worries. I tried to keep pushing through, telling myself, "You've got this." But inside, I was breaking. My heart was constantly racing, my stomach hurt all the time. I felt like crying, but couldn't. I felt numb, like I was disconnected from myself. One night, I came home and just sat on my bed. I didn't move for hours. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't planning, I was just sitting there, completely frozen. That night was a turning point. I realized I couldn't go on like this. I had to change something. I had to learn how to take care of my inner world, not just my schedule or my work. 4. Step 1. Allowing myself to feel. The very first step in my journey to managing stress was allowing myself to feel. I used to believe that I had to be strong all the time, that showing emotion was a sign of weakness. So I would suppress everything: fear, sadness, even happiness. But now I know feeling is healing. So I started giving myself permission to be honest about how I felt. When I was frustrated, I said it out loud. When I was afraid, I wrote it down. When I felt joy, I let myself smile, even if it was small. I started expressing instead of suppressing. This was not easy. Sometimes I felt vulnerable, sometimes I cried. But that's okay. That's part of being human. 6. Naming my emotions. One practical thing that helped was naming my emotions. Instead of saying, "I'm fine" or "I'm okay," I started being more specific. I feel overwhelmed. I feel insecure. I feel disappointed. I feel hopeful. It's amazing how just naming your emotions gives you a sense of control. You stop being a victim of your feelings and start understanding them like a friend. This is something I encourage you to try. When you're feeling off, pause and ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling right now? Don't judge it, just name it. 7. Journaling my inner life. Writing was a game changer for me. I started journaling every day, even for just 10 minutes. I didn't write anything fancy. I just wrote what I was feeling, what I was thinking, and what was happening in my life. Sometimes I wrote full paragraphs, sometimes I just listed words. What this did was give me a safe space to process my emotions. It was like talking to a non-judgmental friend, someone who just listened. Some days I would write, I feel stuck today. I don't know why. I had a small victory. I finished a task I've been avoiding. I'm scared I'm not doing enough, but I know I'm trying. Over time, my journal became a mirror of my inner world. It helped me see patterns, recognize progress, and release pressure. 8. Breathing and grounding. I also started practicing something very simple but powerful, breathing. When I felt panic rising or my mind spinning, I would stop and take a few deep breaths. Not just shallow chest breaths, but deep belly breaths. Sometimes I would put one hand on my chest and one on my stomach and say, breathe, you are safe, you are okay. I also learned a technique called grounding, where I focus on the 5 senses to calm down. For example, I would name 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. This helped bring me out of my head and back into the present moment. 9. Setting boundaries. Another major shift was learning to set boundaries. For so long, I said yes to everything, every request, every plan, every message. But I started asking myself, is this healthy for me? Do I have the energy for this? If the answer was no, I gave myself permission to say no, without guilt. Setting boundaries wasn't just about saying no to others, it was about saying yes to myself. Yes to rest, yes to peace, yes to space. 10. Talking to someone. Lastly, I realized that dealing with stress doesn't have to be a solo journey. I reached out to a friend. I told them, I'm not okay right now. And they listened. They didn't try to fix me. They just held space for me. Later, I also spoke with a therapist. Just having someone to talk to, someone trained to help, made a huge difference. You don't have to carry everything alone. Opening up to someone can be the most courageous and healing thing you can do. That brings us to the end of part 1 of this episode on how I deal with stress. In this part, I shared the inner emotional journey, how I recognized stress, felt it, and started to manage it from the inside out. In part 2, we'll talk about the outer actions I took, building healthy routines, creating calm environments, using positive self-talk, and developing mental resilience over time. If this episode helped you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend. And don't forget to follow for part 2, coming very soon. Take a deep breath. You're doing better than you think. See you next time on English with Tuna.